So guys, this is our trailer and gameplay reaction preview for Gotham Knights. In terms of what we know so far, well, it's an action role-playing game being developed by WB Games Montreal and published by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment. Set for release in October 2022 for Windows PC, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. Inspired by the Batman Gotham Knights comic series, the game focuses on the DC characters Nightwing, Batgirl, Robin and Red Hood as they attempt to restore justice to Gotham City in the immediate aftermath of Batman's supposed death.
I got this, Bruce.
While investigating Batman's disappearance, the heroes come into conflict with the Court of Owls.
No one talks about them.
A secret society that is as old as Gotham itself and their legion of brainwashed assassins called Talons. The general premise is that the game is set in Gotham City after the death of Bruce Wayne, i.e. Batman, and Police Commissioner James Gordon, which has resulted in the rise of crime and lawlessness.
You can't count on the GCPD.
Players assume the role of one of 4 of Batman's former protégés, Dick Grayson as Nightwing, Barbara Gordon as Batgirl, Tim Drake as Robin, and Jason Todd as Red Hood, as they attempt to continue his legacy by protecting Gotham. During the game, the heroes will encounter several supervillains, including the Court of Owls, Mr. Freeze, Harley Quinn, Clayface and Penguin.
See about that.
Supporting characters include Bruce's former butler, Alfred Pennyworth, and police captain Renee Montoya, one of the few honest cops left in the city.
Montoya here. Heard you're down there having some fun.
Fun's one word for it.
Despite WB Games Montreal's previous work developing Batman Arkham Origins, and the fact that Gotham Knights features many of the same characters from the Batman Arkham series, the new game is said to be an original story separate from those games.
Irrelevant. I already have what I need.
The game is also unrelated to the CW's similarly titled TV series,
Trust me.
which features certain similar plot points such as Bruce Wayne's death and the Court of Owls as antagonists.
Not a whisper word is said.
Gotham Knights was revealed during DC Fandom in August 2020, with a planned release for 2021, but the game was later announced to be delayed until October 2022.
No matter how hard we try, there's always more to do.
As always, joining me for this reaction preview is my brother Dav. So what are your general thoughts on this one?
Well, the trailer and the cutscene footage is pretty much like any other superhero game from an aesthetic standpoint. It does look good nonetheless.
If anyone asks, I meant to do that.
I won't say a word.
The gameplay fighting footage we've seen to date looks a lot like the Batman Arkham series, of which Dale knows a lot more than I do about. That's to date, I've only played one game in that series.
As for me, I feel this looks similar to the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League actually, and I mentioned that when we did the trailer and gameplay reaction for that recently. Of course, the obvious difference here is that you're playing the good guys.
Let's prove him right.
So what are your thoughts on the gameplay, Dav?
I'm not the biggest fan of a third-person view in games, as I've mentioned before in our videos. However, I do think it works for a superhero game such as this. The special moves that the characters have simply wouldn't work in a first-person view due to the speed and complexity of movement, so I'm quite happy with the third-person aspect in this.
This will only take a second.
The switching of characters looks like it could really bring a different angle to the game compared to the Batman Arkham games of old. Although this mechanic is also in the upcoming Suicide Squad game, which we previewed the other week, link in the description, it will be interesting to see how each game tackles this and the similarities or differences between how it's been implemented. The XP and level up system that looks to be implemented in the gameplay footage does make it look and feel quite arcade-like, I felt. XP is generally implemented in games quite commonly like this, so I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it was just noticeable from the gameplay footage.
Yeah, in terms of my thoughts on the gameplay, well, the ability to switch between the 4 characters when playing solo or being able to play via the 2-player co-op multiplayer mode should be fun, and in the multiplayer mode, the second player can drop in and out at any time without affecting the other one, which is quite a unique new addition to a game actually. I don't recall many where you could do it in this way.
You've always had my back when I needed you.
I like the idea of the open world Gotham City, which is always great fun to explore, like in the Arkham series, and in the world premiere trailer, the city really looks like it does in the Arkham series, and that's definitely not a bad thing. Apparently there'd be vehicles to explore the city, and it will be interesting to see what vehicles they use in this. I found the Batmobile in Arkham Knight was done really well, and so hopefully they'll have similar vehicles in this. The motorbike shown in the world premiere trailer looked cool, although I expect it could be a bit janky if playing on mouse and keyboard, so we'll see how that turns out. It appears to have a darker and more serious tone than, say, the Suicide Squad, and this is perfectly suited to the dark and gritty Gotham City.
That's who I am. That's who I'll always be.
So in terms of thoughts on graphics and environment, I thought the graphics looked really nice. The cutscene graphics looked realistic with some nice lighting effects and looked to blend nicely into the gameplay sequences where applicable. The environment looks open world and suitably dark and murky for the Gotham City feel, as Dale's pointed out. I'm really interested to get exploring the city streets in this.
So the game's been built in Unreal Engine 4, and so it should look great. That's a solid engine to build it in. Graphics in all the trailers look amazing in my opinion, although in the gameplay trailer it does say the footage is pre-alpha builds, so that would have to be taken with a pinch of salt.
This doesn't look up to code.
There are definitely some noticeable stutters in the gameplay trailer, and perhaps a bit low FPS in places, but the graphics look good for an early build. The city environment looks suitably dark and rainy, set in the usual mood for Gotham City.
It deserves to feel safe.
So what are your thoughts on the story?
I'm not particularly familiar with the story through the Batman game series historically and how well or not this fits into it as a whole, so I'll mostly pass over to Dale for this one, but I will say that it looks like they've taken an intriguing angle with the story in this game relating to the death of Batman.
If you're watching this, I'm dead.
Yeah, I feel using the Court of Owls as a storyline is a great choice, as this was done so well in the comics and is very popular, so as long as they don't mess it up, it should be a solid story. A bit like the Suicide Squad game that's coming out, it seems to follow on from the end of Arkham Knight, and so Batman, Jim Gordon won't be present, or will they?
I guess it's up to me to figure that out.
So in terms of thoughts on the game mechanic, the open world mission system looks good. Hopefully it's just smoothly implemented to not break immersion too much and keep continuity. The mix of stealth takedowns and multiple enemy fight mechanics look good, and if it's anything like I experienced in the Batman Arkham Knight game, then it should be fun to play.
Protecting people runs in my veins.
The animations for the characters look plentiful, so hopefully it won't feel like you're just doing the same 2 or 3 moves or combos. The tag team enemy takedowns look really cool, just hoping the mechanic works smoothly in the game and is not clunky to trigger.
Almost got it!
The limited UI looks good too. It's not full of oversized icons or too much information that you don't need. It's just the basics that come and go on screen and are appropriately sized to not take over the view.
So in terms of what's seen of the mechanics so far, the stealth gameplay and fighting generally look very similar to the Arkham series. If it is, then I would expect the stealth mechanics to be a bit basic but passable, and I really enjoyed the fighting in the Arkham series, so would be happy if it was similar in this.
If anyone asks, I meant to do that.
It does look like it'll be open world and you can switch between the 4 playable characters. Each character will have their own special abilities, as you'd expect. The ability to tag team another player in a fight looks great and could be fun as long as it's implemented well.
Dad, you're it.
Anything I'm not sure I like the look of is the health indicators above the enemies' heads in the gameplay trailer. You can see exactly where the enemies are around you, even if they're in the distance or behind objects, and hopefully these can be changed or even entirely switched off in the options. This type of assistance I find just dumbs the game down and makes it less challenging.
This is how Robin wins.
So in terms of my thoughts on the game modes, well, it sounds like the single and multiplayer modes are kind of incorporated into one, which covers the multiple switching of characters and dropping in and out of players in the game. As with the Suicide Squad game, it'll be interesting to see how well this works.
Yeah, the ability to switch between the playable characters looks fun and should expand the gameplay if done well. The solo or 2-player multiplayer element should also add variety, and apparently with the multiplayer element this will be seamless, and so the players can drop in or out without it being too obvious.
And now, it's up to me.
So Dav, what are your final thoughts on this?
I do think this looks like it could be a really good game, and I'm looking forward to its release. It feels like it's taking some of the best bits of the Batman Arkham series and putting a new spin on it, developing it in a different direction to its predecessors and maybe creating a spin-off series. Even though this does look quite similar to the Suicide Squad game in its gameplay and mechanics, I think they kind of complement each other. Suicide Squad looks more humorous in its story and gameplay and bright in its environment. This feels like it's more serious in its story and dark in its setting. Fingers crossed they're both well received.
But I'm really looking forward to this one and hope it turns out to be as good as it looks. If it is well received, it could start a whole new offshoot of games, like Dav said, set in Gotham City, but perhaps with alternative characters to move away from the Arkham series. I really hope they don't add stuff like microtransactions or anything like that, and hopefully it won't be too dumbed down like many games end up being these days. It's not long until it releases now, so fingers crossed it'll be a good one.
And I'll go to hell and back to see it through.
Well guys, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment. Hit that bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video, and we'll see you in the next one.
For if you try to crush them, then the Talon strikes you dead.